Hi, my name is Avil Beckford, and this is the latest episode of The One Problem. I invite my guests to come and talk about one problem, not all the problems in the world, just one. Who wants to get overwhelmed? So they have 5 to 8 minutes to present their solution. My very special guest today is Hillary Sobel, and she is another Elevate Network person. I'm very passionate about Elevate, and I've known her for over a year now. So, Hillary is a lawyer and has been a lawyer for a few decades, 3 decades, and she believes in all things fairness inside and outside of the law. Over to you, Hillary.
Good morning, Avril. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about this. One of the big problems that I believe passionately in trying to resolve is about respect for women in the workplace. I have seen that over the years, women and people who identify as women have fought so hard to make it in the workplace, whether it's in the law where I practice or elsewhere, that there's this sense that they've made it and they're happy to be here. And then there is this sense of not belonging or not being respected. And that is very frustrating to me. In growing up, I was always the only girl in a group of guys. And I never liked being told that because I was a girl, I couldn't do something. And I find that in the workplace, despite the great explosion of women and people who identify as being women working as they had not in decades past, that they're still not fully accepted for who they are and what they bring. And I think it's important as leaders that we model how to encourage all women and all people who identify as women to be respected and to be heard. And so one of the things that I try to do to encourage that is to stand side by side, to ensure that people are quite literally heard in a meeting, turning to somebody and saying, "What do you think?" Because the overwhelming impression that I see, particularly in the legal arena, is that people who identify as women have still been relegated to the backseat. They are still not the power players. And they are. They just have to be recognized as that. And I think one of the ways to address this is for women to stand together. Before a meeting, make sure that we all talk and say, "I'm going to support you. I'm going to make sure you are heard." So that when there are only a few in the room, but you are overwhelmed by people who identify as male, that your voice is literally heard. When someone, and this happens to me far too frequently, I will make a comment. I will be the only woman in the room still, and nobody will say a thing. And then a few minutes later, a man will say the exact same thing, and suddenly it's brilliant. Well, I will stand up and I will say, "Oh, I'm so glad you agree with me." Now, it's not an easy thing to do if you don't have that confidence. And so the way to build that is in solidarity in rooms. It's also, as a leader, to be mindful that you don't do those same things, that you don't ignore someone when they are speaking and go by default to someone who appears to have more experience. One of the beauties of where we're at now with intergenerational workplaces is that people from different generations, younger women, older men, we all have different ways of approaching a problem. And so if you don't listen, you don't learn. The other thing I would say is we need to learn not to be afraid of the word no. When we're children, it's one of the words we learn early on and learn its power. No has a lot of power. You don't have to always say no, but what you are saying may say no. So when someone treats you as though you are unimportant, you are the person who is going, because you're a woman by default, you are going to take notes at the meeting. You know, there are ways of saying, well, I think we should all be doing that because we all hear different things. We want to make sure that we all capture our own impressions. I can remember in one time I was taking the deposition of an expert witness, and I was there with a senior partner who was female, and my adversaries were male, and the witness was male. And the senior partner on the other side said, "Hill, can you get the witness a cup of coffee?" And I just looked at him and said, "You have legs, they work. You can get him a cup of coffee. He's your witness." And the witness was, taken aback. The lawyers were all taken aback. And, the guy went and got his own cup of coffee. But it takes practice to get that confident. And saying no and learning to stand up for yourself and for others is a muscle. The more you use it, the easier it becomes. And oftentimes it's easier to stand up for someone else than for yourself. So the more you do that for someone else and you see the benefits of it, it will give you more confidence to stand up for yourself. It's something I am so passionate about. I see it happen to women all the time. And in addition to standing up for them, I will also invite them into my office and sit and talk to them and ask them why. Why are you concerned? And has to be a recognition that we don't always all stand up because we've made it to the room where we want to be. And there are other issues we need to confront and other things we need to protect. And there's a fear of retaliation or not getting the next assignment or not being, invited to the client meeting. And I understand that. I come from a very privileged space, not just because of my race and my education, but I don't have certain responsibilities that will impact my ability to say, no, I don't have to worry about a mortgage. I don't have to raise children. I don't have to worry about a spouse. And while I have other obligations, these are huge things that identify how we react to things that happen to us in our workplaces. And I understand that. And I'm not foolish enough to say that everyone should risk everything they have to stand up for themselves. You've got to balance that. But I think it's important that we all work towards recognizing that respect in the workplace is paramount. And we start with each other, one-on-one, and in the rooms that we're in. And hopefully we bring that to a broader reach in our organizations. So that's the problem. That's my approach on how we take the first steps to solving it.
Thank you so much, Hillary. You made me think, and I know that you're going to give my listeners a lot to think about.
Well, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you again for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk about something that matters so very much to me and has throughout my career and my life.